Hi everyone, my name's Liz Pellicano. I'm a professor in the Macquarie School of Education at Macquarie University, and I have been delighted to lead a research project looking at autistic people's experiences of COVID-19 pandemic, particularly in the first lockdown of 2020.
Hi everyone, I'm Mel Heyworth. I worked alongside Liz on that project. I'm an autism researcher, so I came with the autistic lived experience to help to interview and analyse the data that came out of our study.
This study was initiated in the first phase of the COVID-19 pandemic. And at that time, more than 1 billion students around the world had been taken out of schools and kind of really thrust into that learning from home environment. And essentially, we wanted to know how this experience impacted upon autistic students and their families. And in particular, what we might learn from this experience for when the pandemic subsides. And to do that, we adopted a participatory approach, the working together of autistic and non-autistic researchers. And that had a huge influence on this project. In the entire project, we managed to recruit 144 people. And of those, spoke to 91 parents and young people about their experiences of remote learning during the pandemic. And I can tell you now that if I had done this study without the connections of our autistic researchers, it would have taken me months to recruit that many people. The participatory approach had a huge impact on the extent and nature of the people we spoke to, our sample. It also impacted on the kinds of questions we asked people and the way that we asked people those questions. And that ensured that our interviews with people were respectful and supportive. And then finally, I think having autistic people involved in the analysis had a massive benefit in terms of drawing attention to things that might have otherwise been missed. And I think Mel's influence here has been particularly amazing. We've done the analysis essentially on parents and young people's experiences of remote learning during the initial lockdown. And what we noticed was that there were a number of children who were reported to have thrived during that period, or even who had had some initial issues, settled, and then started to really flourish. And it was Mel who said, well, hang on a second, we should really try and understand what it is about this setup, which is suboptimal in nature. We can learn for how to approach autism education in more normal times.
It struck me that all of our expectations about what autistic people should have felt in this scenario, that we should have hated the change in routine, the massive changes, the differing expectations of home and school, that so many parts of this shouldn't have worked in our favour. And yet we were hearing from all of these autistic children that it was working in their favour. Absolutely, there were periods of transition where they were working out how best to be at home and how best to be in that relationship with their parents and with their online learning environment. But then there were too many young people, too many parents who talked about how their child was thriving to ignore, because we know that schools and traditional schooling can be really challenging for autistic kids. So if there's something that we can take out of these experiences, which should have been so awful for most autistic kids in the terms of the generalizations and the stereotypes of autism, and we can apply it to schooling, if that's the silver lining that comes out of it. It was something that I felt really passionate that we were able to sort of see what it was that worked for kids in the home environment, and see then if we can translate that when they get back into mainstream schools.